Welcome to today's USA Wrestling segment of Moments Off the Mat. I'm Cody Bickley, USA Wrestling National Team High Performance Manager, joined by our special guest that we'll get to in a second, Miss Kiki Kelley. This is going to be revolving around her, but also have joining us our head women's national team head coach, Terry Steiner, as well as Jessica Medina, our USA Women's Development Coach. So Kiki, hey, welcome. It's good to have you on today.
Hi, guys. I'm back. Kiki in the house.
Yes, we're excited for this. So for our listeners, Kiki is a former team leader for our 2016 quad for the Greco-Roman program, and exciting news for our women's program that we're going to talk a little bit about today is Kiki has agreed to do this a second go round, but this time she's going to be with our women's program, obviously, and I know she's passion for that, and so that's Kiki's role, and we're going to get into a little bit more about her. But as we transition into this next quad post Tokyo, Kiki's going to be helping out our women's program. So Kiki, just from all of us, we're so excited to have you on board again.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So with that, we got some questions. We're going to get to know Kiki a little bit more, but Coach Terry Steiner, why don't you get us started a little bit?
Well, first I want to thank Kiki for getting on the call today, and furthermore for getting involved with the women's program. We're very fortunate to have you on our side and on our team, and we're looking forward for a great adventure leading into Paris. That our team leaders from the very beginning, since we were named into the Olympic family, have been an instrumental part of our success from quad to quad to quad. And it's always great to have leaders, who bring an outside view and an outside perspective into the team and into the program, and we're excited to have a powerful female representative and you coming on board. So with that, I just want to welcome you and thank you for being involved.
Thank you. Standing on the shoulder of giants. I was lucky enough in my first team leading position, and I guess it's unusual to do it twice, but I'm standing on the shoulders of Kira Tirana Berry, and I was lucky enough to also work with the men's freestyle team lead. So we made the great triumvirate, and I don't think it can ever be repeated, but I haven't met my new cohorts yet, so I'm super excited.
Okay, so Kiki, I guess first question is, how did you first get involved with USA Wrestling, and how did this journey start? Back in 2012, I believe, is when you
Actually, it started way back in 2008.
Okay.
Dave Sarofchek, well, actually, it started in 2004. Dave Sarofchek and I were working at Google, and I had, because I was one of the older ones and he's finance, he was wearing suit and tie, and I was like, Dave, maybe you should wear a t-shirt. So we wore a USA Wrestling t-shirt, and I was like, you're kidding me. How did you get that t-shirt? And he's like, if you're ever in Denver, I'll take you to the Olympic Training Center. I was like, oh my God, you cannot just be saying that, because I'm going to take you up on it. So the second I was in Denver, he took me on a tour in 2008, came back in 2010. I found out that the Carson Cup was losing its funding. And I just thought, how much does it cost to sponsor an athlete? And I couldn't believe how little it was. And then I was like, well, how much does it cost to support a whole tournament? And again, I was like, this is why I started a foundation. So I took over the Carson Cup, and we were trying to come up with a good name for it. And of course, in the interim, they started jokingly calling it the Kiki Cup, which I hated, but it became a joke. So then randomly I started being interviewed by Gary Abbott, and all I was planning to do was just to be a supporter. I love wrestling, and Greco was totally new and interesting. And from there I met Coach Frazier and Anatoly and just all you guys. And a couple of years later, I think around 2. So I was volunteering for like 7 years. And then Fraser calls me up on a family vacation in Arizona. And I'm literally sitting there drinking a margarita in a bikini. And he's like, hey, have you ever thought about being a team leader? And I was like, really? Do you think I could do that? Because I'd already been on a couple trips to like Cuba and stuff. And he goes, you've stepped in dog do and you've gone on a 9-hour Harley ride. I think you can handle it. So he goes, put down the margarita, get a headshot and write your bio and send it right now today. I was like, okay. And that's how it happened.
I knew it was going to be a cool story.
Well, it was good preparation because all of our outings, so like Tashkent and Iran, were very unexpected and on, fly by the seat of your pants, and whatever comes up, be ready for it.
Yeah. So with that, what was your most memorable moment in leading the Greco team?
Clearly being the first woman allowed into the Iranian arena. I mean, that's just huge. I still can't believe it to this day. And aside from that, it was the first one in their training center. I went to their parliament. I stayed for a full week at the sports ministry's request beyond the team leaving. So that was crazy. And that started a whole sports diplomacy thing with the State Department. I mean, there's so many. I have a million happy, amazing memories. One time, Helen Aroulis was like, our team leader is totally in the Olympic Museum in Lausanne for being the first woman to enter an arena in Iran. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So my best friend lives in Zurich, and I had her go down to Lausanne to check it out. Is that true?
Awesome. Yeah, for our viewers that don't know quite as much internet, Kiki stated it best. I mean, she was literally the first, and the culture over there, I would almost say it's a little bit obviously taboo for women to be in sports arenas, and for Kiki to go in a leadership role and walk into that venue, to say she had several, a little bit of a understatement. It was a unique moment. And that's really what kicked off the sports diplomacy and led to that being in Lausanne. So yeah,
it was constant fight. Cody, you remember me constantly calling you like, hey, Cody, can you come and help me? Because they're refusing to give me my credentials. They said, you're a woman, you can't be a team leader. I mean, that even happened in Rio. I had to call in you guys to be like, yep, she's our team leader. I mean, so I'm really looking forward to working with the women because, first of all, I roomed with them several times, especially at the Olympics. And I've known them, I got to know them because we were always right next to each other. It was always Greco, women, Greco. And, I watched them braid each other's hair and I watched them wrestle. I love them so much. They're Amazons and they're crazy. So it's going to be a totally different thing leading the women's team than the Greco team, who more needed like a mom who would go to the US Embassy and get them their favorite snacks. The Amazon women, they're going to want me to wrestle Clarissa Chan. That's a whole different, different goal setting.
So when the idea was proposed to you to become the women's team leader, I mean, what were your thoughts at first, and then if there were there some concerns you had as well?
My first thought was, oh my god, this is like a dream come true, because Adeline told you anyone, I don't know if she told anyone, but my very first tournament in Budapest, I was in the elevator with Adeline, and I'm a super fan. And I was this was my first job as a team leader. And in my head, I was like having a dialogue about like, oh, I really want a picture and an autograph with Adeline, but no, I can't do that. She, she shouldn't be bothered. We're in a private elevator. Let her alone. So when I told her about that, because we were on the bus in Rio together, she laughed and laughed and laughed. She was like, so to actually be working with my heroes, Helen and Adeline, and oh my gosh, Erin and Clarissa, and it's like a dream come true. And the second thing was, oh my gosh, I have been really, really sick. I lost my fiance in 2018 to a terrible accident. He died. And the grief kind of set the stage for me with my underlying condition of ulcerative colitis. So, and that kind of brought down my immune system. So I got COVID, and I have the long haul version. So I'm digging myself out of a deep hole. So while the women's team is digging to their core to find what they need to give them that edge in the Olympics, I'm going to be going on my Olympic journey too, which is I'm just turning 50 and I need my health back. And I want to be able to, wrestle and so yeah, the concern is that to live up to these women who are my inspiration and to bring inspiration to them. Like, hey, if you can have a 50-year-old woman who has been through 2 years of hell and can come back from it, wrestle Clarissa, right? And, just physically do it. My head is great. My head is, I'm mentally there. Physically, I'm not. And I know for them, they're physically there, and it's a headspace thing. So I feel like we might have something, to work off of with each other.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about your upbringing, growing up. Where you grew up, and what were your interests at a young age? Just give us a little bit of background about yourself.
I used to wake up first thing every morning, call my very best friend. Back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. So we called each other, and all day long, we would ride bike or go swimming or wrestle with our brothers who were both wrestlers, or climb trees. As a total tomboy. We played softball, we played basketball against the boys, we played football. I mean, literally from morning to night, I was playing sports.
Did you grow up in Minnesota?
I did. Up in Moose Lake. It's just a little village.
Okay.
It's tiny. Everyone knows, like, if you go there, they're like, oh, you're related to, the local cop is your uncle. Oh, I remember babysitting you. Do you remember playing with so-and-so?
And then talk a little bit about getting past that and going into your professional career at a young age. Kiki, talk a little bit about your background there.
Yeah, getting sophistication. So I sent myself to the library often. And now, of course, there's the Google. So I always do my research and homework. I'm a huge fan of Duolingo. I like to learn enough of every language for where I go to so that I can be a communicator. I have a master's in professional and technical communication. So I have been a webmaster. I've done deals and, I've been a mentor. I've started teams. I've pretty much done everything you can in the business and technical world. Wasn't nearly as exciting. And the funny thing is, if you're not really into what you're doing, I never worried about being fired. And so I never got fired. Like when this pink slips came around, I was like, please give me a pink slip. And they were like, no way, you're just going to take over the other person's work. Whereas I actually my heart is in wrestling. So, I'd lose my voice screaming for the wrestlers. And while I was down with COVID, I took that time to watch some wrestling matches and kind of catch up on freestyle since I'd been in the Greco world for so long.
So, and did that interest in wrestling, did that start from your brother?
Well, it started because my sister was the strongest in her class. They're both younger, right? I mean, she beat the farm kid who could like lift huge like a cow, right? My sister was super strong. My brother, I would actually beat, and yet he was like always top rated. And so, but I knew from church, the wrestling coach and how he felt about girls. So I knew that I couldn't, he was like, you can be a cheerleader. I'm like, no, thank you. No, thanks. So I found out when Afsoon started wrestling, like I kept track of the women wrestlers from the very start because honestly, they're my heroes. I wish I had forced myself onto that mat. I wish I had made them put me on the team. And if you put together swimming and, just strength and, I've done an 18-minute plank. I actually beat Yelena. um, you put those things all together, I would have been a good wrestler. I'm just like, so I feel like I feel like I'm living through the wrestlers, especially the women.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know how many women along my career that I had encountered that had said, I wish I could have wrestled. Like, in your era of they were told that they couldn't, but they loved the sport. And I, to this day, like I would tell you the same thing. I'm like, you would have been a great wrestler. And it's so
I would
cool.
never given up. I may not have like had the best technique, but I would never, ever, ever give up. To this day, I have a really hotshot nephew who led his entire soccer team like as a captain to #1 in the state, made the winning 2 goals. I also have a cousin who plays for the NHL and in his rookie year played in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we have a very athletic family. Like, and we may not be the tallest or have like the natural ability so much, but I would never ever give up. And as a team leader too, like no matter what obstacle we come across, including the guy in Tashkent who literally would not let me onto the floor, I found a workaround. I will never give up. That is what I have going for me. I'm just super stubborn and like a bull. Like,
Yeah, you definitely would have made a good wrestler.
I would be a grinder for sure. Just wear them down. Yeah.
Well, easy questions here, Kiki. What's your
Okay.
favorite place that you like to go on vacation?
I just love traveling. Recently I was in Cambodia. I mean, before I got really sick, and just to see Angkor Wat. I love seeing UNESCO World Heritage sites. So seeing Isfahan in Iran, but mostly I prefer to get to know real people and how they live, what they eat, how they go to the bathroom. Those things interest me. So I was actually in a tiny little village called Magalilwa in far, far, far interior Tanzania. I've been to the Sahrawi refugee camps in the middle of nowhere in the Sahara Desert. I just love to try to fit in and learn the language, and I listen and I show respect. I wear what they wear, I eat what they eat, and I make family. That's my favorite.
Yeah, this obviously this time we're in talking about your travel, and a lot has changed obviously, in the last 6 months, Kiki. So I mean, how have you been handling that? Obviously, we all have to shift gears a little bit, but these last few months, I guess obviously you've been focusing on your health. We definitely hear that, and especially knowing that you had a spell with COVID, but outside of that, what's kind of been what's life been like for you, I guess?
I know it's really odd to go from, traveling all over the world to in my house. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, I've done a lot of house repairs and we took down the garage. I'm sure everyone else did things like that too, or all of a sudden you're looking at this wall and you're like, this has to be painted again. I can't stand this color. I can't look at it. But I've also been helping my daughter because she's doing school from home. So I've gotten back to my teaching years, and some of it's kind of hard. It's like Latin 3 and AP World History and stuff. And I'm like, "Ugh." So other than that, I mean, the podcast, thank God for the podcast. I when I got really, really sick this time, and I did have a horrible, horrible case of COVID. And it was before they had any of the helpful stuff. So it was like in March. So I actually started to think, maybe I should look at my kind of will and make sure I've got all my everything together just in case. So I did that. I met with my lawyer. I got everything in order, and I really worked on the podcast to record these crazy stories. It's called Tales from a Bucket List Champ, for posterity, because I don't want to lose these stories.
That's phenomenal. And just hearing you, Kiki, just sharing all these things, it's even more exciting just because to have a team leader who brings that energy to the table and that mindset, and how much, I can see you attributing to the future of the program, and just being that example, like
Oof.
you're doing now, just in the 6 months and where you're at. And you're so excited for this next piece. And I think that is going to be so inspiring for our team as a whole. So.
There's not a ton of women. I mean, there are enough working for, USA Wrestling, USOC, but especially the overall international organization, IOC. So the women, I made sure, like, I always wanted to get to know, the movers and the shakers, and that includes Sally, especially. Sally and I have had hours long discussions about where wrestling needs to go to and how, we've got plans, and some of them fell through because of violence in like Rwanda and Uganda, but the Democratic Republic of Congo. But I mean, she and I work really, really well together. And I was lucky enough to go to one of her galas and wrestle like a girl. I've gone to visit Sarah in St. Louis and go to see her wrestling operation. And I'm just a huge fan of Trisha Saunders. I just love all these women. They're just, Afsoon is beyond wonderful.
Yeah.
And to work with Karen. I mean, I've got to do some of the tournaments for War of the Roses and hand out awards and talk to the little girls and stuff. And Cody and I were together at in Las Vegas at one of the junior tournaments. It was just so exciting and fun. Like, the youth I love kids and animals and traveling, and wrestling. So what's better, right?
All right, so Terry, I'm going to do the rapid fire. Here comes a would you rather.
Okay.
Pants or dresses?
That's actually really hard. Because I would say skirts, honestly.
Okay, skirts. I didn't have that down.
Really
Heels. Heels or sneakers?
Sneakers. No way. Yeah.
Sneakers.
Heels.
7-course meal or pizza?
I wish I could do pizza, but I'm gluten-free. If the 7-course meal includes all protein and like oysters and stuff, I think that's a big meal though. There's gotta be a lot of salad in there.
Dogs or cats?
I have both. I like all animals. I'm gonna go with elephants.
You got the third option on most of these. Respected or feared?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Respected or feared?
Oh, definitely respected. 100%. I believe in
All right.
love, not fear.
I figured that. I knew what that one was. I knew
Yeah.
what that one was. Terry, you got some other questions?
I know, just I guess, when people maybe from the outside that don't know the sport of wrestling, if they ask, if they would ask you a question, something like, why wrestling? Why are you supporting wrestling? What's your answer to that?
Yeah, I've answered that many times. I love that it's a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. You are totally accountable. You like what you earn is exactly what you put in, and everyone knows that. I mean, it's so it's for also it's not such there's no it's a very diplomatic sport. You get to know people from all over the world and they become family because there's very few wrestlers in the world. It's not that machismo of like the football players who are doing the, the dance and stuff. I mean, it's enough to run around with the American flag. Like that is so cool. And for the most part, all of the athletes look up to and respect each other. And for me, that makes wrestling really neat. Plus, they're the smartest athletes I've ever met. And I've talked to a lot of athletes. So just the strategy alone.
Yeah.
And the 3D physics, of how to move your body and be able to do these amazing things. It's like I think gymnastics is maybe closest, but then you have to have the stamina of a runner. I mean, and the toughness of a rugby player, a football player, like it's crazy. It's just the coolest sport. I think we should have, I really think we should have playing cards, trading cards though, for the women's team. That's one of the things I'd really like to do. I've wanted to do it for years.
Yeah.
Given to the young girls. I mean, girls wrestling is the quickest growing sport in all of the US, which is huge. That's amazing. And we have Helen with the gold medal. Come on.
Trading cards is a great idea. A few years in a row, we did the playing cards, the deck of playing cards, and with a lot of prominent athletes, but the trading cards is a neat piece.
Yeah,
but,
with stats, because when I was in 5th grade, I knew the football players' stats. I mean, why shouldn't we know the wrestlers' stats?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jess, do you have any questions as we start to wrap it up here with Miss Kiki?
Yeah, I think some of my questions were, what do you see yourself contributing? But after hearing so much, I guess my first thought is any advice to our athletes now in just adversity, overcoming, basically their dream put off for another year. And I mean, we're in October, we don't know what's going to come, but obviously, they've got to stay the course. What's your advice to them?
One of my trainers from way back, because I had to come back from a 2% chance of living. So I've worked really hard and there was no guarantee that I would live. So he told me it's the rainy days that you don't want to get out of bed or the meal that you don't want to eat. Those are the days that you make huge progress. That's what differentiates winners from not winners. It's that extra push, because that's when you make the hugest progression. And it's true, every time I've been really, really sick, I make a huge spiritual growth and I'm able to envision a bigger self and a bigger future. So you take those periods when you're down and you just grind it out. You have to do the work. You put in the work. There is no easy answer.
I love it. Yeah. I do have one more. Wait, I have one more.
Okay,
what
go
would
ahead.
I need my time with Kiki too.
I know.
Kidding. No, I'm sorry. Last one, Kiki, I promise. Any suggestions on reading, obviously your podcast or any other, I know myself and our athletes are, they're huge advocates of learning more, hearing these stories, anything that's helped you that you could share.
What? I'm often asked for book lists and I do them specifically for different people. So I wouldn't say there was like a full team complement. I mean, there is one. So there's one about a man who has amputated legs and he climbed Mount Everest. And then there's another man who did, he was blind and he ended up conquering that too. So those would be like general inspirational stories. But what I'd like to do is I have a background in, I almost finished a Jungian psychoanalysis program. I got halfway through before I had to decide to be the team leader for Greco. So what I'd like to do is independently kind of get to know each of the ladies and kind of get into their head and figure out, you know, what it is that motivates them. And I believe in operant conditioning in a positive way. I do not believe in negative conditioning. That was horrible to see the Russian coach punch the 4th place winner at the Olympics because she didn't get the bronze. Those injustices make me so mad. That lights a fire in me, like injustice. This team, I can promise you, they will always get their mat time. They won't have to worry about a thing because I'm going to take care of it for them so they can focus on their elite training and being the best that they can be. And I'd be happy to come up with book lists for each and every one of you that's tailor-made for you. I mean, of course you can read Coach Frazier's book, you can read Sarah Levin's book. I mean, I wouldn't recommend like the pro wrestlers because in the UWW guys, you know, Dan Gable. But there's other ones that are totally psychological.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kiki. I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
You.
Well, Kiki, we really appreciate your time once again, and definitely looking forward to having you involved in a larger capacity again with leading our teams. And obviously, you're a tremendous leader in your own right. And when we can bring that to the forefront, especially help our women's program, it's a win-win. So once again, we just thank you, and looking forward to that next run through the next quad 2024.
I see really big things for them. And I don't think this year that they've lost, I think if anything, it's going to make them more aware that at any time things can change. And, you know, you're not guaranteed anything in the future. So you have to kind of seize the moment and prepare for whatever comes. And I hope to be there just cheering them on.
Yeah. We know
And
you will be.
And bugging
We
you.
know you will be. So,
Poor
with
Cody.
that, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. USA Wrestling segment of Moments Off the Mat, joined by our special guest, Miss Kiki Kelley, future women's team leader for the next quad, and our national team coaches, Terry Steiner and Jessica Medina. Thanks to you all.
Buddy.
Great day.